When you realize you've been trying to be better, changing habits, rewriting your story, setting new goals, and nobody around you seems to notice. It's not a dramatic ache, more like an itch you can't quite scratch, a constant whisper that maybe none of this actually matters. You feel it most when you look across the room at your friends or family and see the same faces, the same eyes that aren't really seeing you. It's like you're shouting into a void, hoping the echo of your own voice will convince you it's real. I remember the first time I felt it. I was 14, and I'd decided I was going to reinvent myself before high school started. I practiced my posture in the mirror, read about confidence, even changed the way I dress people. I tried to be the version of me that felt worthy, someone people wanted to talk to. When school began, I walked into the cafeteria with my chest out, ready to own this new identity. But nobody greeted me differently. The same kids sat at the same tables, and I slipped into the same corner, with the same sense that I didn't belong. I wanted to tell my reflection in the bathroom mirror, "See? It worked." But when I looked, I was still me. Same awkward grin, same nervous twitch. The change I'd worked so hard for felt invisible. It's a strange kind of loneliness, that feeling of growing in silence. You water the soil, you plant the seeds, you wait for something to sprout, but then you realize you've been tending to a pot behind a wall. Sometimes it makes you question everything. If nobody believes in you, why should you believe in yourself? If all your effort goes unseen, does it even count? I spent years chasing a kind of approval that never came, thinking that if I just ticked enough boxes, someone would turn around and say, "Wow, look at you." But the world kept moving and I was stuck, pushing against a tide that never paused. I talked to a friend about it once, someone I trusted, or at least I thought I did. I poured out how I'd been trying to learn a new language, how I'd been waking up early to journal, how I'd been cutting out junk food and pushing myself to read more books. I braced for an enthusiastic response, a high five, a genuine bit of pride. Instead, he shrugged and said, "Cool." It wasn't a dismissal exactly, it was more like I told him the weather report. Useful information, but not life-changing. I stuffed the conversation like I'd stuffed a glove into a coat pocket. Out of sight, out of mind. But later that night, alone in my room, I felt that itch again, more insistent and louder. And then there's the part where you start to blame yourself. You think maybe you're doing it wrong. Maybe your voice isn't loud enough. So you try harder. You post more, you share every small win, you tag the people you want to notice you. But the notifications stay quiet. Or they come in small trickles, an emoji heart, a thumbs up. And they feel worse than nothing because they remind you that someone saw it and barely cared. You scroll through your own feed, wondering why that post didn't get more love, and it becomes this bizarre performance where you're both actor and audience, and nobody's buying a ticket. What if the real work isn't about convincing others? What if it's about learning to value the unseen? It sounds a bit cheesy when you say it out loud, like something a poster in a yoga studio might declare. But there's something there, a seed of truth that feels worth planting. I started to wonder if I could shift my focus back to why I wanted to grow in the first place. Not for likes, not for applause, not for that moment when someone would point at me and say, "There he is," but for the quiet satisfaction of knowing I showed up for myself, even if the world didn't notice. So I tried it. I cut back on sharing every little achievement. I kept learning that language in the background, scribbling sentences on sticky notes, but I didn't broadcast them. I journaled at dawn, then folded the pages and slid them under my mattress. I read books that challenged me and marked them with bookmarks, but I didn't post quotes on social media. I let the growth be something private, just between me and the page. It felt strange at first, like I'd been rehearsing a play for an audience and then decided to perform it in an empty theatre. But in that silence, I started to hear my own heartbeat again, strong and clear, unhurried by the clamour of approval. There's a story I heard about a sculptor who carved a beautiful statue out of marble, then buried it in the ground for years. When it finally emerged, the weathered stone glowed with a gentle warmth, not because anyone had polished it, but because time and earth had done their work. I like that image, the idea that growth can happen underground, away from prying eyes, that the most profound changes don't need an audience. They need patience, they need quiet, they need trust that you're worth the effort, even if nobody else is watching. I'm not saying abandon your community or stop sharing your journey. I still post now and then because sometimes connection does matter, and sometimes words can spark something in someone else. But I try not to hang my self-worth on the number of thumbs up or comments I get. I remind myself that every small step I take is real, even if it's just in my own life. And some days, when the loneliness creeps back in, I lean into it. I let myself feel that hollow ache and treat it like a messenger, not a judge. It tells me I'm growing in ways that aren't visible yet, and maybe that's okay. There was another moment, a simple one. I was walking home in the rain, no umbrella, my shoes soaked through, and I thought, if I stop and dance in this puddle, maybe nobody will see me, but I'll know. So I did. For a second, it felt freeing, like I'd scratched an itch I didn't know I had. I laughed at how ridiculous I looked. Soaked hair, drenched clothes, gleeful grin. Then I kept walking. I didn't post a photo. I didn't share the moment. But I felt it in my bones. I belonged to myself, rain and all. Growth is a strange thing. It doesn't announce itself with trumpets and banners. It doesn't always come with a standing ovation. Sometimes it's the quiet moments nobody else witnesses. The early mornings, the late nights, the puddle dances in the rain. And maybe that's the real gift, knowing you can grow in the dark, knowing you can grow alone, knowing you can grow without anyone's permission or applause. I'm still here, still wondering if anyone notices, but I'm learning that sometimes what matters most is that I notice myself, that I believe in the person I'm becoming, whether anyone else does or not. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. I believe in you. Now, believe in yourself.